I think I'm live. Hello, everyone. I am doing an impromptu live again. I just was having a hankering for doing some kind of jelly arts painting today, and I figured that I would just go for it. I've had a long week editing a lot of videos. I'm working on a lot of projects that I can't share yet, so it's usually like 3 months in advance. So you get to see some things that I'm working on 3 months after the fact, which is very trying sometimes when I'm so excited to share what I'm working on. But it also ends up requiring a lot of post processing and editing. So that's what I've been doing. I've just been sitting in front of the laptop and editing quite a lot. So I figured I haven't done, I used to be able to do gel plate printing every single day. I was on vacation for a week. I didn't carry any of my supplies. I was using my daughter's watercolors actually while on vacation. So I've really missed working with the gel plate. So I figured I'd spend 30 minutes doing something fun, and while I'm doing it, share it with you. So let me know if you have any questions along the way. I'm happy to answer. And if you are watching the recorded version of this live, then if you have any questions after you've watched it, leave me a comment and I'll be sure to respond. So let me just do this so you can see the screen. There we go. So I have a 5x7 gel plate here, and let me see if I can do a window in window so you can also see my face. You're not just seeing my hands. So I have a 5x7 Gelli Arts gel plate. You can see I don't really clean my gel plate. I like to keep it like this because then there are surprises every time I pull a layer. I also get something from a previous print, and some of it is just like stains. It's just stained from previous prints and has textures from previous prints. So the stain doesn't really affect how the print is going to be, and that's something that people are really concerned about. So I figured I'd just show you that there's nothing to really worry about with your gel plate staining. Now this thing here is the perfect placement tool, and ever since I got this from Gelli Arts, I have not done any gel plate printing without it, and I'll tell you why. I layer quite a lot, and I do a lot of mixed media with my gel plate prints. And I used to have to remember to put a sheet of paper under the gel plate and then use that kind of as my guide, and then make sure that I'm standing right above it as I'm placing my paper to pull a second or a third pull where I want things masked a certain way. This takes that guesswork out, and mostly I used to forget. Honestly, I do spur of the moment things. Like this live is spur of the moment for me. Felt like doing it, so I'm doing it. Same thing with gel plate printing. I just pull out my gel plates and I start printing. I don't have the foresight, for the most part, to think to place a template under this for my multiple pulls. So this is helpful because I can just line this up and have my paper, and then the second pull, the third pull, every time I do a pull, I have this lined up. So it just makes things so much easier. And I've also started doing color blocking. When you mix colors on the gel plate, I was finding that given my impatience and my lack of planning, the colors were muddying up a lot. And I wasn't getting the vibrant results I was going for. But when you use this, you can actually print in parts. And I'll show you what I mean. I'm a visual person, makes more sense to me when things are demonstrated to me instead of when people talk to me or write instructions out. So supplies-wise, using a 5x7 Gelli Arts gel plate doesn't have to be clean, can be really old and beat up, still works fine. I'm using the perfect placement tool. I'll be using Liquitex Basics acrylics. I have a lot of these tubes. I'll just be using these. You might see me running for some color shift paint if I feel like introducing some color shift while I'm doing the prints. I didn't really choose a color palette per se. I just pulled out whatever colors were hanging in front. So that's our color palette for today, I guess. Don't overthink it. Really, don't overthink it. I might introduce a yellow because I think I'm missing a yellow. And this white doesn't feel like it has a lot of paint, so I'll get a different tube of white. Let me do that. I'll get some yellow and some white. So I'll just have those two on hand. And again, brands really don't matter. So like I have this Liquitex acrylic white, and then I also have the Artist Loft white. They both work just fine. So don't worry if you don't have a particular brand of color. And for the I think I might as well just pick because I know that I'm going to reach for them at some point. So I'm just getting my color shifts also. And both of my yellows are kind of out. I have these golden fluid acrylics that I like to use, and I'm low on supply. I need to order more of these. And these are the color shifts. So these are folk art color shifts, and I got aqua flash, blue flash, and purple flash. And we'll see if I use any of these. Okay, and I have a piece of copy paper right here on my table, protecting it, and also I'll be using it to brayer the excess paint off. I have another extra sheet of copy paper here, which I'll flip as I'm brayering color on. I do not throw away these sheets after I have brayered extra color on them. I always end up using them in my projects. For masking, I'll be using some feathers. For patterns, I've got eyelash yarn. I've got some bubble wrap. I've got some cardboard packaging, and I also have some die cuts. So these are things that I just randomly cut and save. This one was done on craft plastic, so it's pretty durable as a stencil also. And then I just have these random shapes that I cut out, leaves, feathers, printed on one side. I can use them as a print on the other side while I'm using them as a mask. And then some hand cut shapes. So I just basically draw something out on a piece of copy paper, print it out, and then just cut it with my scissors. So nothing fancy. I don't have a scan and cut. I do not have a Cricut. I do not have any of those gadgets that cut things that would make life a lot easier, but I already have so much. I'm not adding more to my list of things to buy. So let's get started. And I use this brayer. This is a soft speedball brayer. You can also use a hard brayer. The one that comes with the Gelli Arts kits is a hard plastic brayer, and that works fine too. It's just a matter of preference, whatever works for you. If you see that the paint is kind of, you can see over here how much paint is accumulated. This is how I usually clean my brayer. So I will just literally peel the paint off. It just comes off. And sometimes it's a smooth layer, sometimes it's not, sometimes it just comes off in bits and blobs. But basically that's what you do. I don't wash my brayer. I just kind of pull. And I'm realizing this might not have been the best thing to do while starting a video where you're wanting me to actually show you how to use the gel plate and paint and all of that. So I'll just clean this off another time, but you get the idea. It's basically just pulling your paint off the brayer. And I don't throw away these bits either. I save them. In fact, I got a really good pull the other day when I was cleaning my brayer. It was a really nice clean pull. That's what I pulled off the brayer. So you can see it's like a really cool mixed media element for one of my journals at some point. So yeah, you can add more to your, my husband calls it the garbage collection, but mixed media collection for use later. Okay, so I'm going to be using Bristol Smooth paper. You can also use copy paper. I like to bind my prints into journals these days, so I've been using the Strathmore Bristol. This is 9 by 12 inches, 100 pounds. And what I do is I just cut it in half. So I basically just, this is 6 by 9 now, which is perfect for the 5 by 7 gel plate in conjunction with the perfect placement tool. So I can get my prints always aligned properly. And I don't use the 5 by 7 setting on this perfect placement tool. I use the 8 by 10 when I have torn up, when I have cut my paper to the 6 by 9 size, and I'll tell you why. The 5 by 7 setting on the perfect placement tool is so that you can use an 8 by 10 piece of paper, so copy paper, or 8.5 by 11 sheet paper, and you would get a centered print. So your print, all your layers, they will always be in the middle of that 8.5 by 11 copy paper. Because I've cut this into 6 by 9, I'm not going to use the 5 by 7 setting, because if I do that, what's going to happen is it's going to align over here, and you can see how the gel plate is over here. That's not going to work for me in terms of aligning my print. So you can use your perfect placement tool as a way to align your prints no matter what the size of your paper is by just using the closest setting to the edge. So that is the 8 by 10 setting, but ignore the size and just use that setting. And that way, this won't be centered, but what it will do is that your paper will always line up against these little doodads over here. And because it'll always line up, you'll always have a print that is aligned and future prints that are aligned. And you'll see what I mean. I better start making some prints to actually show you what I mean by all of this. So let's start with a light color. Let's go with magenta, actually. I haven't used this in so long. And some of my paints might be dry, so if they're dry, just know that they've been sitting for a while and I'm on a mission to use things that I haven't been using for a while. And this space just feels so cramped right now. I have too much out and not enough space to move in. I'll always complain about not having enough space. I know I just moved into a new craft room. I shouldn't be complaining. But so these, you see all of this paint over here on the perfect placement tool. That's my fault. You are supposed to move this away when you're brayering. I didn't, so, and I haven't had time to clean it. So there's that. There's a dose of reality for you. Things are not always perfectly clean. Not in my life. There's this magnet that somebody gave me one time that said, a clean house is a sign of a wasted life, and I completely live by that. They know me well. Okay, so all I did was brayer some magenta and some white onto the gel plate. I put bubble wrap on, and I put my perfect placement tool. I aligned it to the left corner, left top corner of the gel plate. And now I'm just pulling my first base layer, which might be a splotchy print. And you know, the thing with the gel plate is that if it is a splotchy print, if it is not a smooth print, or, now see, it's got purple and yellow. How did that happen? So you know why that happens? Because I don't clean my gel plate and I don't clean my bubble wrap. So this probably has some residual colors. Such a nice surprise. So if it's a blotchy print, don't blame yourself. Don't blame the gel plate. That's just the nature of this medium. This is how these prints are so unique. This is what gives them character. So people get beat up about not getting like the perfect bubble wrap print or the perfect like edges. It's fine if you don't. Grunge is, you know, the heart and soul of gel plate printing. So I was saying you can do color blocking in parts on the gel plate. And look at how dry this is. What I mean by that, do I really need to pull this off? It will drive me nuts if I don't. So I will. Okay. So this is how I get paint on my hands all the time. What I mean by color blocking on the gel plate while using your perfect placement tool is that you can just put paint on one part of this gel plate, put your perfect placement tool right there, maybe introduce a texture. So let's say we do some of this. That was just a foam roller with a pattern on it. And you place this back here, right? Just align it. Move this away. Press down on this part. You can press down the whole thing if you want. You might pick up something else from a previous print. And there. So it's just part of it, and it's not muddied up anything. It's got a bit of those scales from this foam roller. And I mean, it's just so easy and so fun to be able to do that without having to worry about brayering just the right amount or not mixing colors or just making mud. I just found that so freeing when I discovered that I could do this now that I have the perfect placement tool. So again, just doing some more color blocking. And I just finished uploading a video on YouTube that'll go live next week as part of a blog post for the Gelli Arts blog, in which I show more of this and how I made a journal with that. So same technique, but you'll see more of it in that video. Okay. I was just checking to see if I'm doing it the right way. So now I have some yellow. that'll be in some parts. Now, the beauty of this tool here comes in play when you do masking. So this is all fine and dandy. This is like the basics of your first couple of layers, right? Then if I take a red and I cover the whole gel plate with it. Transparencies also make a huge difference. Like if you were to use an opaque color versus a transparent color, the effect you would get and the layers you would get would be very different. But that's like a whole thing in and of itself. So okay, let's take this and let's take maybe, what should I do, a leaf or a feather? I'll do a leaf. So let's take this mask, place it like so, take the print, align it again, press down, and let's see what happens. So what you should see is a lot of red, and the part that was the underpainting, which was the pink, the blue, and the yellow, masked off. That just makes my heart so happy. So pretty, isn't it? Okay, now you have a ghost print here, which if you wanted, you could also pull on another sheet of paper. I don't really care for it, so I won't do that right now. What I want to do is another layer on this, and I'll do that with a color flash. So the color shift, I keep calling it color flash. So I'm going to use this blue, maybe, the aqua flash, the metallic aqua flash. And a lot of people start crying, oh horror, why did she do that? Messed up a perfectly fine print. Yes, this is a perfectly fine print. I just think there's more in its journey than where it has landed right now. So that's why I keep building layers. If you want to stop, you feel like this is too precious and you don't want to spoil it, stop. Don't go any further than this. I don't want you to feel like you have to. You don't have to. If that scares you and makes you so afraid that you feel like you're going to cry if you did anything on top of this and it would ruin it, don't do it. I feel bad sometimes when that happens, but the power of curiosity is way too strong in me to not attempt this. That's why I do it. So I might feel like, oh no, I ruined that print. Maybe I won't do it next time. Or maybe I'll use a different color next time. But I do it anyway. I do it afraid. But if it doesn't give you joy, please don't do it. This is not a technique that has to be done a certain way. My way is not, it's not set in stone. This is just how I like to do it. So here you can see that didn't really do much. You see a little bit like of a ghost print over here. It just adds more character and some more dimension, I feel, to this. And there's some color shifting happening, but it's only when the light catches it just right. So this looks really nice, but I want to introduce something else. Maybe a stencil with some letters, maybe a stamp. I'm not sure. So let's see. I think it just needs some more texture. Now because I cut out these stencils on copy paper, they tend to just stick to the gel plate like this. But if you don't have sharp nails, it's okay to just dig them off of the gel plate. Like that. I'm going to get like a music. Let me see if I can find a music stencil or something that has some words. I just feel like it's begging for some words. Some numbers, some letters, something. So I'm just going through my stencil rack over here. And I think I found something. So let's do this. What color should we do? I think I'm gonna do like a yellow. I don't want to go too dark. So I'm just gonna use this yellow. I might do a white at some point. I'm just looking at this to see what colors are gonna work with another layer. So I don't know, we've done like what, 4 or 5 layers right now in this one print. It's just amazing how time flies. And, you know, a lot of people will say they'll sit down for 30 minutes and they'll make like, I don't know, as many prints, 30 prints in 30 minutes. Totally possible. When you're layering, you might find yourself sitting for 30 minutes and getting one print, but it'll be the one print that makes your heart sing. So I'm just gonna do this, extend that over, take that off, bring my paper back, align it, move the perfect placement tool out of the way, press it on, and it's just so therapeutic. There we go. Now it has some more interest, I feel, to it. Now I'll add a dark blue, which is my Prussian blue. And again, this is all dried up. There we go. There are some colors that I just don't go for. So, you know, that's why when I do these play sessions like this one I'm doing just now, it's important to me that I go for the colors I normally don't. Because otherwise, you know, I'm just going to stay stuck in the rut and use my favorite colors all the time. Nothing wrong with that, but then, you know, it sometimes just gets, not boring, but it's always the same. Okay, I'm going to use another mask. I think I want to do a feather. Lots of feathers here. I think I'll use this one. It's nice. Just going to put that over there like so. It's going to be my mask. And oh, I want to show you before I pull this print. This is what it's looking like right now. So let's see what happens when we do this. You could also do a white, and that would give you a completely different result. So a lot of people also use the brayer to apply pressure. So it applies a more even pressure on the gel plate at this stage. You can totally do that. I just find this very, very therapeutic to use my hands. The whole tactile experience is really, really nice. You see what I'm talking about? You have to let yourself go on this journey, otherwise this kind of stuff doesn't happen. I mean, I just love all the layers in this, the patterns, the textures, the colors. And I have a feeling I'm not being able to see any comments. So I'm just going to go on to YouTube and check myself out. Make sure I'm not missing any questions that may be coming on the live. Let's see. Okay. No questions. Okay, just making sure I was missing. All right, so that's one print done, and that took about, what, 10 minutes, 15 minutes? I'm going to call this done. You can add some more white over here. I think you can, you know, doodle over here too. There's lots of things you can do. Again, very cool ghost print here. You could try to capture that if you'd like. I'm not doing ghost prints today. Just don't feel like doing ghost prints today. Just going to go on and make another print. So again, you could have stopped like at 3 different stages in that print. You could have stopped at the first stage. You could have stopped when I did the second one with the aqua flash, or you could just keep going and see what happens and what surprises you. So again, I'm just going to do some texture. So I'm using this here for my base print. This is kind of an odd color. I had some blue on my brayer. I used some orange. So this is going to be a very interesting first layer, a first dark layer. So we'll see what happens. You know, that's the thing about gel plate printing, and my whole philosophy with it is, let's just see what happens. Because otherwise, how do you know? Like, how do you discover new things? How do you get excited? How do you keep going? Because if you always just know what's going to happen, where's the fun in that? Oh, this is cool. So it lifted some of that vein from that feather, the spine, and then it's got this, the white from where it lifted the paint off, where this lifted the paint off of the gel plate. I mean, this is just really cool. Okay, so let's do some purple aqua flash or purple flash color shift on this. And again, there's no rhyme or reason why I'm choosing certain colors, except what speaks to me in the moment. So it's not, I am not referring to a color wheel. I am not going by, these colors always go well together, so that's what I should do. I'm not doing any of that. I'm basically just going by instinct and saying, you know, this is what feels right now. So this is what I'm gonna do. Just gonna put this random shape here. And then I'll put half of my leaf here and see what happens. You'll hear me say that a lot. Let's see what happens. I like to say that a lot because that's really how I live my life. Let's see what happens. Ooh, the shimmer is amazing. So it blocked off the leaf. You can see how it's so subtle, and that I love that original color just peeking through from under that shape. It's very cool. But where do we go from here? What color do we use now? So I think it needs some white. Let me see how clean my brayer is. Because that white is not going to be a true white, is it? No, it would have been more gray. So let's see what this does. I'll do a white. And maybe I'll just do some color blocking and just do white in part of it and not all of it. See where that takes us. And then let's add maybe this die cut. Leave it there and see what that does. The other cool thing is that because you're embarking on this journey of not knowing where this is all going to lead to, you end up being surprised each time. Ooh, that's cool. That's really nice. Okay, so I want to do like a bit of red in that now. So I'm just going to add some red over here. And you might hear my daughter come in. Her Zoom class is almost over. So just know that's the reality of kids being home all the time. She's continuing to do her classes online. We decided not to send her back for in-person. She was just comfortable with her teacher and her current cohort, and it just made sense for us to not disrupt that for her. So I'm just going around using the same stencil and the same technique I used in the previous print, where I just put the stencil on top, rolled my brayer over it, and extended it out. I just like these numbers and letters together. For some reason, I'm gravitating towards that. And I'm just going to clean this up. You see how beautiful the brayer sheet is turning out to be? I mean, this is going to make for some gorgeous prints as well. Okay, we're going to do some yellow and some white mixed together to add some lightness, because then I'm going to add a mask right after. Maybe I don't do it all over. Just kind of a grunge. I'm liking the grunge effect this is bringing in. And maybe I'll do like some eyelash yarn. I love the organic feel that the eyelash yarn gives to any prints. It's pretty fascinating to see something as simple as that doing that kind of effect. So gorgeous. Okay, but there's all of this left over here, which is what I want to pick up. So what happened here is that it blocked off the color, but I didn't get any of the texture, right? This just looks like an amazing, like a set after kind of a print, really, with all those layers of grunge. I love his work. He's a genius when it comes to grunge and textures. Okay, so let him press this down. And I think the next layer should be my masking layer. Oh my goodness, look at how beautiful that is. That's just like a whole lot of grunge love right there with a bit of color shift in the middle. I hear her running. She's gonna come here anytime, any minute now. Okay, so I'm gonna use a white and I'll use a feather this time. But I think I really do want to use like a blue also. So let's see what happens if I use a white and then I do a blue. What is that gonna result in? So let's put the feather down like this time. And bring it in alignment. This is what it looks like right now. We're gonna mask with the feather. I promised myself I would only do 30 minutes. So I'm at the 30-minute mark right now. So it's going to be only 2 prints, even though I had cut out a lot more paper. See, it's nice, but I think it's lacking a dark color. It needs like a pop of dark color. So I'm just going to use my dark blue. Like it's not got that wow factor quite yet. It's getting there. It's not there. And sometimes when you feel nothing is working, using a dark color or a light color makes a huge difference in your final pull. So how about we use a leaf mask for this, since we did a feather in the last one as the final pull. I'm going to use it like this time. And you could also use a real leaf. I just didn't have access to real leaves right now, and this is what it looks like right now. And we're just going to go in with a straight leaf, so we'll get some of that angled feather in there too. I like to use this part of my hand because that's where I'm able to exert the most pressure from. Oh my goodness. I think the leaf is stuck to the paper and it tore. My stencil tore. That's okay. I'll just peel it off of this. Now this is a print that has gone like into the dark. You don't see any of those under layers except for where the leaf masked it off. Okay, so we're just gonna pull this. Oh, how cool. Some of that paint from the leaf on the other side transferred over as I'm pulling this off of the wet paint. See, now that's just so cool how that happened. If this were a real leaf, that would not have happened. And I'm getting fingerprints all over now. Okay. So I like the story this is telling. It's not the complete story. It feels like I lost a lot of layers, whereas I was able to preserve a lot of layers in this one. But I also feel this one is a more distinct, the second print is a more distinct print. So you could still continue on this. I mean, there's just so much scope to still continue on this one and add more layers. But I do like how stark an image this is, how it just hits you. There's a punch. So yeah, 30 minutes, 2 complex prints with not those many supplies actually. Just some hand-cut leaf stencils and 1 actual stencil and feathers and some cardboard. So I'm feeling happy because I got some gel plate printing in, and I hope that you got something out of this. And if you have questions, do not hesitate to ask. I will respond to comments if you have any questions later in terms of supplies, in terms of process. I do hope to offer more of these free YouTube videos. I'll do some more lives as time permits, and you'll just see the real and the raw. You know, this is kind of how I operate. It's usually not very planned. It's usually not very meticulous. I usually don't have copious notes on what works together, what doesn't work together. I just kind of go with the energy of the day and see how it expresses itself in the form of art. So here we have the 2 prints from today, 2 completely different styles, I guess, but using the same color palette. And I think it's a very low, slow kind of energy, very calm energy today. It's not the steampunk happy energy today, but that's where I am. So that's what I produce on paper. So if you haven't watched the live and you're watching the replay, just know that I'm happy to answer any questions you have. Leave me comments. And thank you so much for taking the time to be here. I really appreciate it. See you all next time.